relief can be granted. My children and husband have asthma. In order to have an outdoor fireplace, we needed our smoke to be funneled away from the house. It was required for the chimney to be 5 feet above the fireplace. I believe its work is blocked by trees and bushes and cannot be substantially seen by others. Essentially, they have, I think, I don't want to speak for Mr. Urbach if he's not coming in clearly, but if I'm saying anything inappropriately or incorrectly, please identify. But they had a permitted, I call it a slate patio replacement in the rear yard as a accessory structure. Off of that, they had a fireplace, and that fireplace is the wall we're talking about. The chimney stack extends. I think Mr. Urbach told me that during construction, the company required that the chimney stack be extended upward to go above the roof line of the house. So it's essentially 1 story in height, or about 10 feet. And that is the relief that they are seeking for the fireplace chimney stack.
Yeah, so that's exactly right. And the other 2 things are, there's exhibits we put in to show what it looks like from the really be seen. And what actually happened was, we didn't know it was going to be that high, but when the fireplace people came in, they said to be within fire code, you have to clear the lower roof. So we raised it by 2 feet to make to can't be seen by anyone. But that's, and then we realized we did apply for variance, and that's what we did.
Okay. So the relief that is requested is the additional foot that is above the roof line. Essentially, the 6 feet takes it 1 foot above the roof line.
It takes it 1 foot above the roof line, yes.
Okay.
It's actually 2 feet above the roof line, I think, 2 feet.
And do you see?
The exhibits show what it is.
The relief is that the fire pit fireplace wall exceeds 6 feet in height. That's the relief.
Okay.
The actual height of the wall above the chimney stack, where the worst case is 10 feet, or 10 to 11 feet, something on that order.
Okay. Okay. Do any of the board members have any further questions?
Mike, this is a question for you. So the issue is really only the height of the wall of the fireplace, correct? It's not the issue with the chimney exceeding the roof line, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. That's the only question I have.
Any other board members have any questions for the applicant? Okay, I'm going to open this up to the public. Do any members of the public, are there any members of the public that are present that have any questions for the applicant?
Seeing none.
Thank you. I think for the reasons that were stated, I would be inclined to grant the relief that is requested. I don't see any detriment in granting the relief that is requested of the applicant. Do any other board members have any thoughts on the application? Okay, before we vote, can I just open this one more time to the public? If there's any member of the public that wish to speak on this application, please state your name and address in the Q&A.
Yours?
None?
None.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay, so we are going, well, I guess, do we have a motion to approve the application by any members of the board?
Motion to
approve.
Okay,
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Who made the motion?
Matt Glass.
Matt Glass made the motion.
Mr. Glass,
Yes.
Mr. Cunningham,
Yes.
Mr. Kirschenbaum,
Yes.
and Chair Cohen.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you
Thank
very
you very
much. Have a
much.
great evening.
Good luck.
Sorry about the technical stuff.
No problem.
It happens. The next application that we are calling this evening is application 2021-19, 5 Avon Road, block 1301, lot 64. The requested relief is a lot coverage variance for a pool area.
Apu, can you pull in Sarah Lieberman, please?
Good evening, how are you?
Good evening, everybody. How are you?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Bruce, do you want to swear in the applicants and the witness, or?
Sure, we could swear everyone in. Mr. and Mrs. Rosero, is that correct?
Yes, it's correct.
Raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
I
Yes.
do.
Could you both please give your full names, spell your last name, and give your home address?
Sure. Patricio Rosero, 5 Avon Road. Now spell it. Pitrico
Thank you.
And I'm Ines Rosero, INESROSERO, 5 Avon Road in Springfield.
Very good, thank you. Ms. Lieberman, if you would raise your right hand. You swear or affirm to tell the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right, does the applicant wish to present their request and then have your witness testify on your behalf?
Yes, we can do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
We would like to, we're asking for a permit so we can install a pool and extend our driveway.
Okay. Thank you. And Ms. Lieberman?
How
like-
do I, yeah, how do I
Share
get
your
to
screen?
the files? Is that-
Who is, can you
Well,
share?
let me,
Yeah.
let me just explain it a little bit further. They're already,
I'm sorry,
Over.
just-
Sorry. Yeah, we have to voir you, I guess.
yeah. Ms. Lieberman, if you could just give your experience, education, and so on in the field of architecture, I presume?
yes, I am an architect licensed in the state of New Jersey, Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute educated, 96, 97, licensed in the state of New Jersey since 2007.
And your license is current.
Correct.
Do any members of the board have any objections to qualifying Ms. Lieberman as an expert in architecture?
No.
Thank you. You're qualified. You may continue.
Okay. What I was going to say is even prior to adding the pool, they are over in lot coverage. They did go and get a engineer to look at mitigating the water. They hired EKA Associates. And I believe that that information to put a dry well on the property was sent to Mike Disco already and reviewed by him.
Mike, you received everything? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Are there any concerns that you have with respect to what was submitted?
No, they did a volume analysis and the volume is acceptable for the displacement of flood storage. The seepage pit is located in the front corner and ties equivalent roof area in. So from a volume basis, from a conceptual basis, it's acceptable. I think the only question I had was there is some grading changes that are going on in the back, and we just want to ensure that there's none of the grading pushes water to a adjacent property owner. So we'll have to hear that through testimony.
Okay. Ms. Lieberman, would you like to walk through your testimony? Do you want us to share the plan? Are you sharing
Yes,
your
please.
plans? Apu, are you able to pull up the plan? Please.
Ms. Lieberman, can you just direct Apu which version you want him by file?
There was one that I couldn't read so well, so that would be, I think this is the one that is readable to everybody, if I'm not mistaken. Can you guys see my little pointer or no? Hello?
No, we're not able to see your screen because you're not sharing. So, is she able to share her?
Oh, share screen, it says.
Yes.
Okay. And then where did it go?
I think when you share your screen, you can choose.
You're sharing the screen, you have to open the file on your computer.
Right, you have to choose the file. And the application that it's being opened in.
I had it on the screen. I don't know where it went. Sorry. Can I just show from me, or I thought it was a specific file, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I can share the version that Jen Law shared via the Google Drive. And you would just have to verbally describe the section
Okay.
that you need to
Okay.
highlight.
Okay, so the, if you could see the heights of the backyard, it's still the same. It's going downhill towards the front, which is where the water retention system will be located in the front. So it will continue to be drained towards the front of the property. They are putting a little bit of steps over here, but as well, it's still continuing to grade down towards the house and towards the front of the property. Are there any more specific questions or in terms of the grading, Mike?
Yeah, if you could just identify what the grade is of the pool coping and pool walkway. It looks like it's a 6-inch above your base zero. Is that accurate?
Yes,
looks
it
like
is.
there's- Okay, which is the same elevation as the.
It's right over here, let's say, in the back before the steps going up to the upper little deck, which is also to be at the same grade as the highest point, which is 1.5 feet above zero.
Right, so the pool is not appreciably higher than the surrounding ground. That's what we're
Correct.
getting. It's
Correct.
basically at grade towards the house. It may be 6 inches above. Towards the steps, it may be 6 inches underground until you get to the steps. But essentially, it's equivalent to the grass grade, correct?
Yes,
Yeah, that's the way I read it, and that's about all you can do to keep water out of the pool and yet not direct it to an adjacent neighbor. It would follow the prevailing grade closer to towards the house. And I do see that you're proposing, or there's proposed landscaping along the rear and right property lines, correct?
correct.
And I assume they would be in a mulch bed of some sort, and that would also
Absolutely.
act to
Absolutely.
prevent water from leaving the site.
Correct.
Okay,
And there is an existing fence along that side, a 6-foot PVC, white PVC fence going around the property.
Okay, you've answered my question. If you want to continue explaining the project to the board members.
So as Mike and I had discussed, the project is to put a pool in the back, 500 square foot new pool with a 4-foot deck, it was originally proposed to be larger, but Mr. and Mrs. Rosario agreed to make it smaller to make the minimum impact in terms of lot coverage. And I think everyone would agree that that is, the absolute minimum for just walking around the pool and putting a chair into the side of the pool. They are seeking to put the pool in so that they could have family come from overseas and stay with them over the summer and watch their children and be able to stay on property and not have to drive anywhere. That is why they are very much trying to put the pool in.
Thank you. Do any board members have any questions for the witness? I see that there are none. I'm going to open it up to the public. Yes,
Madam Chair, if I might first,
yes.
thank you. Am I expanding the driveway a little towards the front of the
Yes,
lot?
they are requesting a variance to be 3 feet away or 2 feet away. I don't have it in front of me.
3 feet.
3 feet, as opposed to the property line.
And is that new impervious surface included in the calculations for the
Yes,
coverage?
yes, yes.
Thank you.
I was actually going to ask the same question, Bruce, or I was going to ask for some elaboration. I noticed that driveway extent, it's not going towards, like, there's not an extension on the house or anything. Can you give it a little background? What's the purpose of that?
Sure. They have some larger cars, and as you know, the cars over the years have been getting larger in width and larger in length. And they do have 2 older children living with them on property. One is 2 in their 20s, one in college and one, 23, 24. And Mr. and Mrs. Rosario have bigger cars. And when they have all 4 cars in the driveway, it's very difficult to open and close. And as stated before, their family, meaning Inez's parents, come from overseas, and just to get them in and out of the car in between when all 4 cars are parked is difficult. So they're looking to just widen it a little bit to have more room in between the cars.
Is there a garage? Is there an enclosed garage on the property?
There is a 2-car garage.
Okay. My only concern with that, not a concern necessarily, but in the interest of looking towards the impervious coverage variance, there was some testimony that the pool deck was reserved to the smallest size possible with that in mind. And when you do the calculation with the driveway not expanded, if you take out that 184 square feet, you're looking at saving about 2%. So whereas they're at 31.2% right now, they'd be at like 35.9, and 37.9 is proposed. So just a consideration. The testimony was provided for the purpose, but I would like to consider that if we are in the interest of preserving kind of the impervious coverage.
I have a question for Mike. Does this, it's except for on the site plans, there's no mention of the driveway expansion on the application. Shouldn't it be on the application?
It should be represented in some way, yes.
Okay. I don't see it there. I just see it on the site plans.
Mark, that's why I asked that question, to make sure it was in the record that they are, in fact, requesting that as part of their plan. It should be in the application, but as long as it's on the record here, I think the board can act on it if you wish.
Okay.
the variance obviously can be eliminated if they reduce the widening by 2 feet. So I'll just provide that to the board members as well.
I think, their goal would be to have it extend, but if it's required that it be reduced by 2 feet, I think they would be okay with that.
So they'd be looking at it, is it 7? Hold on one second. Is it 6'9" then? That's what they would bring it down to?
Yes. In width.
And that would eliminate the need for the impervious variance.
No, it would eliminate the need for a variance in terms of the proximity to the property line for a driveway.
I just did a quick calculation. If they reduce it down by 2 feet, you're looking at a difference of about 40 square feet towards the impervious. So it would lower it a little bit, but it would at least eliminate one of the variances related to it.
Mr. and Mrs. Rosero, are you willing to reduce the driveway width, the expansion of the driveway by 2 feet to eliminate that variance and decrease the request for your impervious overage?
Yes, it's correct. We don't have no issue with that.
Okay. All right, so before and the members of the board deliberate, and I believe now the request that we're looking at is a request for an expansion on the driveway at 6'9", and the pool installation in the back, which would result in the need for a impervious coverage variance only.
Correct.
Okay. I just want to open this up to the public first for any questions of the witness, Ms. Lieberman, who presented testimony. Are there any members of the public that are present that have any questions for that witness based on her testimony given?
Seeing none.
Thank you. I will now open it up to, I guess, the public again, because we kind of went out of order as to whether they have any questions for the applicant. Are there any members of the public who are present who have any questions for the applicant?
Seeing none.
Thank you. Okay. I would be inclined to grant the variance, the relief that's requested, given the reduction by the 2 feet and the elimination of the need for the side, what is it, the driveway width from the side?
Yes.
To the property line?
Yes.
I would be willing to grant the impervious, given that the applicant is in mitigating the relief requested by installing the dry well. So I am in favor of the application. Are there any members of the board that feel differently?
No. I'll make a motion to approve.
Sorry, thank you.
Okay.
Let me just open it up to the public.
Okay, sure.
And okay, is there a member of the public? Let me go back for a second. Is there a member of the public? We believe that there was a hand that was raised that had questions for the applicant. Apu, are you seeing any raised hands?
Yeah, I had one that just went down and I have a new person now.
Okay,
Okay, so the first one is in as a panelist. So you can, it's the gentleman, Scott.
Yeah, hi, this is Scott Strasser. I'm at 1 Avon Road, at the adjacent property. Sorry, I joined a little bit late. We just wanted to, understand if there would be any drainage issues from, any, sloping that would need to be done in the backyard to accommodate the pool and the work being done. Was our question. Sorry if that was addressed already.
it was addressed previously. I don't know, Ms. Lieberman, if you want to, or Mike, if you want to, Ms. Lieberman, if you want to speak to.
Sure. What I was going to say is what we had discussed, Scott, is that the existing property does slope down to the front of the property. And in addition, a dry well will be located at the front of the property to mitigate any additional water runoff. And a dry well is basically a big concrete block cube with gravel inside, located below the ground. And what it does is it absorbs additional water on their existing property so that it does not flow out over their property lines. And that was calculated and submitted to the township for Mike Disco, the township engineer's approval, which he had stated that he did approve what was being done on the property.
Yeah, and I'll just add, you are on the left side, if we're looking at number 5 Avon from the street.
Yes, I'm 1 Avon. I'm on the corner.
So a lot of the backyards along Avon there, basically at the rear property line is the high point of the property. They slope down, for lack of a better explanation, steeper right immediately at the rear fence line, and then they tend to, the slope minimizes as you go to the rear of the house, and then the rear of the house elevation is higher than the road, and the water flows forward. So the grading, there would be no grade changes throughout the bulk of the backyard. The topography is shown on the plan that was drawn by the applicant / architect, and the pool elevation will be constructed at the prevailing grade of the bulk of the backyard, and there'll be steps going up to an elevated landing area, which accommodates, the existing slope change. So it's very unlikely that any water that would hit the pool area would be able to make a right-hand turn and traverse across the grass backyard to you. So.
Okay, so all right. So as long as there's no sloping towards us, then I'm fine.
That's accurate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Apu, there was a second member of the public that had questions for the witness.
It was the same last name as this gentleman, so I think it's just his family member.
Yeah, I think I had to log on to a different device, so they were both me. Sorry.
Understood. We're all trying to navigate this world. Okay, so I want to open up the application to the public for comments at this time. Are there any members of the public that wish to speak on the application?
Seeing none.
Thank you. As I said, I'm in favor of the application. If the board members have any other comments, if not, I would entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion to approve the application 2021-19. Right, is that it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Cunningham,
Yes.
Birkenbaum,
Yes.
Mr. Glass,
Yes.
Chair Cohen.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
The next application on this evening is application 2021-20, 102 Severna Avenue, Block 201, Lot 11, front yard and side yard variances to construct an addition on the house.
Is Kravitz, you going to be the only witness?
No, and me. It's another
Oh,
client.
okay.
Hi.
All right. Ms. Kravitz, first, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
Yes.
Please state your full name, spell your last name, and give us your home address.
Julie Kravitz, Kravetz, and it's 102 Severna Avenue, Severna. I think it was spelled wrong on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Lieberman, you are continued to be sworn in.
Thank you.
Technically, you should be re-qualified as an expert in architecture.
Okay, so let's do that quickly.
Okay. Hi, my name is Sarah.
I'm sorry. I don't think she needs to state her credentials again. But
Right.
just to make sure there are no objections.
Yes. So are there any objections to Ms. Lieberman, being qualified as an expert in architecture?
None at all.
Thank you very much. You are so qualified.
Thank you.
So let's start with the applicant, Ms. Kravitz. Good evening. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Would you please, just for the record, state for the board members what you are looking to do with your property?
Yeah, I'm looking to extend the dining room so it's aligned with the kitchen. So it's a dining room extension and a renovation of the kitchen. And then above the kitchen, I would like to add a bathroom, a small bathroom to my bedroom. So it's an ensuite.
Thank you. And your reasons for requesting this relief is, as I guess is stated in the application, but Ms. Lieberman, would you like to speak on this application?
Julie, would you like me to speak?
Yeah,
Sure.
could you walk through the variances?
Sure. So, Apu, if I could see, if you could pull up the floor plan, I think it's BOA number 2. Are you able to do that? You could see that you could see that the existing non-conforming, which is so this is the existing front of the house, and I say front of the house because it's on Severna, or this is, I'm sorry, on Denham. It's a corner lot, and although its main address says 102 Severna, the front door really is on Denham on this side, where the front door is, and it is considered another front yard. And the existing line of the front yard does not conform to current standards. So the request is simply to continue the non-existing condition. And if you could pull up the, there's also a picture in that file, so you guys could get a better sense of what the current condition is from the street.
Apu, it may be attached to the application.
No, it's within that file. It's here. Oops. Can you guys see it? I can't even, oh, okay. So now you can see on the left-hand side is the existing little bump out of where wall to square it off. It would pretty much end up with where the fence is currently located. And then the second part of the application is a rear yard, I believe, variance, because this current bump out does not conform, and Julie's requesting to be able to put a bathroom on top of that existing bump out as well. Just the bedrooms upstairs and a small bathroom, and she has 2 older children and a very teenage boy, so she'd like a little tiny bit of privacy of her own.
A rear yard or is it side?
Let me double check on that. I can't see.
It's accurate. Or is it front because it's the corner? Trying to.
I believe the way we define it, which is the narrower width, is the, I think that's the rear yard, yeah.
Rear yard.
Right, I believe it's
I think it was 27 and change. I don't have the plan in front of me.
just getting my drawings out because I'm finding it hard to look at the numbers. So the variance is for the rear yard setback, which, because it's the longer side, this is considered the rear, and currently it is, right, it's considered the side yard, and it is currently 27. Right, 27 as opposed to 30 feet.
The
So the
side.
rear, the left side is considered the side yard. No, the rear yard, I'm sorry, the rear yard. At
Okay.
that photo that we were looking, the left side is a variance and the front yard is a variance.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not actually worsening any of the pre-existing nonconformities. You're just basically utilizing the existing line where the building ends, both on
Correct.
the rear yard on the left side of the house, and then along the front yard along Denham. So they're not.
Correct. We're not extending,
Post-
we're not extending beyond the existing non-conforming. It's just continuing that existing non-conforming condition.
And you're like, yeah, you're just filling in that corner there.
Correct.
I have no other questions. I'm gonna open it up to the public if they have any questions for the witness. Please raise your hand or state your name and address in the Q&A.
Seeing none.
Thank you. Members of the board, any further questions? Any questions for the witness, for the applicant?
You just need to open up.
Going to after deliberating, sorry, yes.
Okay.
I'll open it up to the public now. Any members of the public have any comments on the application, wish to speak on the application, please, Q&A. None, correct? None.
Seeing none.
Thank you. I'm in favor of the application. It's an expansion of an already existing nonconformity. I don't believe that there's any detriment to granting the relief that the applicant is requesting.
I do have a question, Chairman.
Yes,
Regarding the new extension per se, there'll be a porch coming off of that?
Yes, a landing, a 5-foot landing. The idea behind putting it that way is to also utilize the backyard. Right now, the way her kitchen is laid out, it goes to like an 8-foot little backyard area that's pretty, in the shade, and it's not very welcoming. This way it allow the flow to go towards the backyard, quote unquote, which is, the side yard, but is really the only grassy area in the
Okay,
property.
so how much further does that extend out beyond the pre-existing non-conforming?
It's a 5-foot landing and then 3 steps down.
Okay. So how does that work out with the application? Because evidently it's beyond that then. You're asking more than just the non-conforming, pre-existing non-conforming, correct?
Yes.
So I guess,
Mike, I'm trying to look up in the code. Do we include stairs as part of the building setback? Mr. Disco?
I thought that was an exception, was a stair landing.
I believe that's correct.
it would be an
We do
exception.
have, we do have language that exempts the stairs.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, it's certainly an accessory element or accessory structure, but that setback doesn't violate any accessory structure setback requirement.
Okay. Just wanted to check. Thank you. No other questions?
Okay, given the additional testimony that was just presented, the answering the questions, I'm just gonna open it up to the public one more time. Are there any members of the public that wish to speak on this application?
Seeing none.
Thank you. Okay, for the reasons that I set forth earlier, I'm in favor of the application. I would entertain a motion to approve unless the board members feel differently. Before we actually do that, Bruce, I just want to take 1 minute.
Madam Chair, it does appear that we've lost one of the members due, I guess, technical difficulties. Jen, do we know?
Let me call him right now.
Thanks, Jen.
Madam Chair, I wasn't able to get him. Do you want to take a 5-minute recess and see if I can get in touch with him?
Yes, I think that would be
Okay.
a good idea.
All right, I'll keep calling.
We're technically in recess, but I would remind the board members and the applicant that we are still live, if you will. So if you want to go off screen, you need to mute yourself and stop your video.
How does it look, Jen? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. I can't get in touch with him, so I'm not really sure what happened. That's not really like him to. Oh, wait. Hello? Madam Chair, I got him. He's coming back on. He had some difficulty.
Excellent.
Apologies to the applicants and to yourselves.
It's understandable. This is what happens again in this virtual world. So.
Yes, navigating, right?
Mm-hmm. For anyone wondering, we do have to wait for him. We are not able to conduct any further business if we don't have a quorum. So losing the one member, we would no longer have a quorum.
All right. You have a quorum now.
Excellent. Welcome back.
Yeah, you said good night. I was looking forward to that. I guess I was too quick.
So we are at the point of a motion to approve the application 2021-20. Is that
If I
correct?
may, Madam Chair,
Yes.
in that 5-minute recess, I took Mr. Cunningham's comment, and ordinance section 3542.2 discusses yard exceptions, which was modified in 2016. And I'm certain that that modification was not anticipating rear yard stairs. It was for front yard and side yard, but it reads as follows. Open or lattice enclosed stairways projecting not more than 5 feet into a yard, ... may be constructed without a variance. So I would say let's err on the conservative side here. It is the setback to the stairs. It was 5 feet from the building, so about 22 feet, which would be more than 5 feet from the 30 feet. So I would say engulf that into the rear yard setback variance, and certainly I would defer to Catherine and Bruce on that.
Mike, I think that's probably safe, the safe thing to do. I'd rather have it on the record and have it subsumed into the variance rather than try and avoid it.
I would agree.
When they modified it in 2016, it was usually there was an existing stair in the side yard setback that had to get modification, or the same thing in the front. There's no anticipation of a rear yard, but the way it reads a yard, I think it's better to be safe. So thank you, Mark.
So,
You're welcome, Mike.
just so the record is clear, so this will be a rear yard setback of what is the variance?
30 feet is required and 22 feet is proposed.
Okay. Okay, Ms. Kravitz, you understand what was just discussed?
I think so.
Okay, we're modifying the application to include that variance, so that there's no question, that if the application is granted, that you're entitled to build your stairs.
Okay.
So we're looking at front, side, and rear.
This,
Really front and rear.
Front and
Yeah.
rear. Sorry. Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Any other comments? I think with that being presented, I'm going to open it up to the public one more time. See if anyone has any comments or questions. I'm not seeing any.
Seeing none.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion if the board so chooses to approve or deny.
I'll make the motion to approve application 2021-20 for the provisions set forward.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Cunningham,
Yes.
Mr. Kirschenbaum,
Yes.
Mr. Glass,
Yes.
Chair Cohen.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your patience. Have a good evening. Application 2021-22, 17 Dogwood Terrace, Block 1906, Lot 4, side yard variance for an addition is the next application that we will hear this evening. Is the applicant present? Yes.
Yes.
Good evening. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you. Will you be the only person testifying this evening?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to swear you in.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
Yes.
Please state your full name, spell your last name, and give us your home address.
Jerry Ortiz, Ortiz, 17 Dogwood Terrace.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Ortiz. Can you tell us a little bit about what you are applying for and your reasons for doing so?
Yes, I'm applying for a variance, side yard variance, because I am looking to expand my bedroom, master bedroom, making it a master suite over the garage. My understanding is that the garage, maybe back in when it was built, was probably to code. So right now it's, I guess I've heard the term non-conforming pre-existing structure. It's off by, I guess it's by 9.2 feet, and I need 10 feet. So I'm off by 0.8 feet, or roughly 10 inches. I'd like to build flush with the wall belt below.
Okay, thank you. Any board members have any questions for the applicant? Are there any members of the public that have any questions for the applicant?
Seeing none.
Thank you. I think this is pretty straightforward. It's a pre-existing non-conforming. Sorry, did I interrupt someone?
Oh, no, go ahead. Sure.
Okay. Pre-existing non-conforming, for, an addition of over a already existing area, of the structure. Mr. Cunningham, do you have any questions or comments? No.
No, I mean, kind of like you said, and looking at the plans, it's really just going straight up the existing wall, structure.
Right.
So
Yep.
bit of a no-brainer.
Yes. I just want to open it up to the public for any comments on the application, any statements that any member of the public wishes to make. Please state your name and address in the Q&A.
Seeing none.
Thank you. I'm in favor of the application. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second? I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Cunningham,
Yes.
Mr. Cohen,
Yes.
Mr. Furchenbaum,
Yes.
Mr. Glass. Mr. Glass,
Yes.
great, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. Bye now.
All right. The last application on the agenda is application 2021-21, 135 Route 22 East, Block 3801, Lot 2, for site plan approval with building improvements for Tesla.
Apu, if you could pull in Joe Paparo, please. And I'm sure that Mr. Paparo will direct you who to, oh, you're pulling in everybody, okay.
I think I got most. There's two more people that are attendees. I don't know if they need to get pulled in, but I think I got everybody I saw named.
Mr. Paparo will direct you further.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Chairwoman, board members. For the record, Joe Paparo from Porzio, Bromberg, and Newman on behalf of the applicant Tesla Incorporated. This application is a request for amended site plan approval. The existing Tesla dealership is located at 135 Route 22 East. That's block 3801, lot 2. The request is to amend the site plan to make some modifications to the building and site. The site is located near highway commercial zone. Based upon your ordinance, auto service sales facilities are conditionally permitted. The applicant, we appeared before this board in 2016 to obtain the initial approval for Tesla to utilize this building and site. A conditional use variance was granted at that time, along with site plan approval. The reason why the conditional use variance was required, as I noted, your ordinance classifies auto service facilities as conditionally permitted. One of the conditions that we were not able to meet in 2016 and remains in place is the minimum lot size of 5 acres. That variance was granted, and although we're not changing anything, this board retains jurisdiction over the site plan, as your planner noted in her report, and we are here solely for amended site plan approval for these modifications. As you hear this evening, the proposed modifications are very minor. Tesla is looking to add an exterior ramp and an overhead door to provide access for vehicles into the service area inside the building. There is a replacement transformer that is also part of this application, which will be discussed. And those are essentially the only changes from what appears out there today and what's been going on at this site since 2016. We do need well, I'll let Mr. Frood go through the testimony on the relief and what we're seeking this evening. So that's an overview, a very quick overview. I know you've had a busy agenda. For witnesses this evening, I would begin the presentation with Devin Magley from Tesla to briefly describe the reasons for these improvements, the ramp and the overhead door, and to really walk the board and the public through the proposed operations. After Devin testifies, I would have the project architect speak briefly and then conclude the presentation with Mr. Frood to run through the civil site plan and the planning testimony associated with the application. So what I would like to do, unless there's any preliminary questions, I'd like to begin with Devin Magley from Tesla to give an overview of these improvements. Mr. Magley, you'll need to be sworn in first before you start speaking.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
I do.
Please state your full name, spell your last name, and give us your business address.
Devin Magley, Magley. It's 135 US 22.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Magley, if I could just take you briefly through your position with Tesla and what is your role at this facility in Springfield?
Sure, I'm the assistant service manager there.
And how long have you been in that role, sir?
About 8 months, with the company for 3 years.
Okay, and you're familiar with the day-to-day operations of this site?
Absolutely.
Mr. Magley, I noted in my overview that we are here for an amended site plan for some minor improvements, essentially a ramp and an overhead door. From an operational standpoint, you do have professionals that will go into the technical side, but from an operations standpoint, can you explain to the board and public why the ramp and overhead door are needed?
Absolutely. So in the current configuration, there's really one entrance that goes into the building. Two initially, and then it splits or it merges into one. And that basically is the whole flow of service vehicles going into the building and onto the lifts to be worked on. Now, the lifts are positioned all the way in the back, all the way throughout the service area. The vehicles, particularly that go into the back onto the service lifts, to be able to get those back out, you have to do like a 20-point turn essentially. Really kind of navigate around a bunch of other vehicles, a bunch of other technicians that are working in that space. It's incredibly difficult to kind of navigate that and then get back out to the building. Something that probably should have been designed a little bit differently in the first place, but we're seeking to correct that now. With that overhead door and the ramp, we'd be able to take the flow of the vehicles directly through the building, just in a straight line, go into the lift, be able to just back right out of the lift and go straight out the back of the building.
Right. And Mr. Magley, I noticed in addition to the overhead door and the ramp, I mentioned that you are seeking to replace the current transformer that's in front of the site. Can you explain the reasoning for that replacement?
Yep. So obviously they're electric vehicles, right? So pretty much all of them need to be charged, particularly while they're being worked on. A lot of our services require us to disconnect the 12-volt battery to work on them. The high voltage needs to be supported pretty much the entire time. So we need a high power plug plugged into these, and we're pretty much out of those, or out of the ability to expand upon that at the moment. So increasing or adding that new transformer will allow us to add more chargers in the building.
And just to go back to the ramp and the overhead door, is your testimony that those additions will improve the efficiency and flow of the vehicles both inside and out of the facility?
Absolutely. I already explained inside. If anyone wants any, to add on to that, I think it's pretty clear. It's just very difficult to navigate without this additional door. For the outside, though, to the left side of the building is a one-way going towards the back. On the right side, it's only a 2-lane road. So being able to drive straight through the building will free up a full, direction of those vehicles going through, and really lessening the amount of vehicles that have to go around the building.
Mr. Magley, one thing I want to confirm for the board members and the public, with the exception of this ramp and the overhead door and transformer, are you intending to modify Tesla's operations at all, the day-to-day, hours, employees, staffing, or any of those attributes of your business changing?
No, they'll remain as is.
Everything will remain as is.
Mm-hmm.
And with the fact that everything will remain status quo, do you anticipate any new parking needs or as a result of this application?
Not at all, no.
Mr. Magley, there were reports issued by the board's professionals, and you've had an opportunity to review those with your team, correct?
Correct.
Mr. Disco's report raised a couple of questions that required some clarification regarding operations. I just wanted to take you through those. One of the first questions that was identified by Mr. Disco involved what was viewed some service vehicles, it appears, that are parked in the drive aisle in the parking lot. Can you explain why that happened and what we can do to rectify that?
Sure. So that's basically a function of the technicians not, wanting to walk all the way to the distance of the far corners of the lot to park. So I can absolutely address that with the staff, and we'll have them clear that out and make sure that's not being used. It's left as an open throughway.
Great. The second item or question that was noted in Mr. Disco's report was the gravel parking area that's adjacent to your site. Can you, it's my understanding that at some point in time, the Tesla was parking vehicles back there. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have on occasion.
And it's been brought to your attention that that area is outside of Tesla's approval. You understand that?
I do. Yeah.
Can you, on behalf of the business and dealership, can you make a representation that vehicles will not be stored in that gravel lot?
Yeah, absolutely.
In that same vicinity, one of Mr. Disco's site photos that he provided with his report showed some tire storage. Can you speak to what's displayed in that photo and just a little bit of history on your storing of the tires behind the building?
Sure. So those are used tires. We have a recycling company that comes, picks up the tires once a week to dispose of them or recycle them essentially. We did used to store them. There is actually a little landing that's fenced in that was designed for that storage on the outside of the building on the back left area. Unfortunately, the fire department one year told us that we needed to store them at least 50 feet away from the building. So we started storing them on that location. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for that explanation. Mr. Magley, based on the ordinance and the code, that type of outdoor storage we do not believe is permitted. So is there something that you can do operationally to make sure that those tires are removed, maybe have them picked up in a more frequent basis than once a week, or store them inside the building?
Yep, and that's exactly it. We can increase the frequency of the pickups and store them inside. We can definitely accommodate some area to keep them inside.
Great. The final item is regarding the refuse area. There's an existing fenced-in dumpster on your site, and then there's an unfenced refuse enclosure or dumpster that seems to be blocking a loading dock. It's my understanding from discussing this issue with you previously that that loading dock is not used in the operations inside the building. Is that correct?
It is not. That room is purely for storage at this point.
So your intention is to keep the dumpster in its current location. You understand that, as Mr. Disco pointed out, that dumpster should be screened and fenced similar to the other dumpster adjacent to it, correct?
Correct.
I've also brought to your attention the fact that the fencing really should be solid. Do you have any objections to upgrading the fence so that it's a solid fence instead of chain link?
No objection.
Great. Chairwoman, board members, I have nothing further for Mr. Magley at this time. I'd like to have the opportunity to recall him if other questions arrive.
Thank you.
Would you like me to move to my next witness, or did you want to
I'm
open?
going to open it. No, I'm going to see if any of our professionals have any questions or our board members have any questions for this witness at this time. The testimony, oh, sorry. Yeah, Mike.
The only other thing I wanted to add was just to confirm that there's no outdoor servicing of any vehicles in any way, which would also violate the conditional use requirement. I presume no, but.
Thank you, Mr. Disco. Mr. Magley, there was a photo that showed a van that looks like it was providing some type of a vendor service. Can you just explain what that van was doing on your site?
Sure. That's a company called Dent Wizard. They do like alloy rim repair. So it's a very, maybe once a week, they come in for a couple hours, repair a couple of rims to go out. It's mainly just for the remarketing, trade-ins that are resold. So
You
they have their
understand-
own, it's all enclosed inside of that vehicle.
And you understand Mr. Disco's point that there is no permissibility for servicing outdoors. That's your understanding, correct?
I do now, yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Your testimony on the tires, how, just refresh, how often are they picked up?
Currently once a week, but as mentioned, the plan is to up that frequency to at least twice a week, and then move them in indoors for storage.
Okay.
How long does it take for you to implement that plan?
It should be no time at all. I could probably have it done by next week.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any members of the public have any questions for this witness? If so, please state your name and address in the Q&A.
Seeing none.
Okay. Thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Magley. Apu, can we have Mr. Frood with the ability to share the screen so he can walk us all through the remainder set of the plans?
I believe he should have that permission.
And Mr. Frood, if you could start with the architect's plan and before we call Mr. Beal. Great, thank you.
We could swear him in, please.
So before we, Mr. Frood's just going to run the screen. We're going to call our next witness will be Brad Beal, the architect.
Okay.
Brad, are you on?
Give me one moment. I didn't realize he was part of your application. I just need to move him forward.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening.
Mr. Beal, you're going to need to be sworn and qualified.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
Yes.
Please state your full name, spell your last name, give us your business address.
Name is Brad Beal, B-E-A-L-L. Business address is 1350 East Toohey Avenue, Des Plaines, Illinois.
Very good. I'll turn you over to the chair to qualify you.
Mr. Paparo, do you want
Sure.
to qualify?
I do. Mr. Beal, can you provide the board with your education and area of expertise, sir?
Yes. I'm an architect. I am educated from Iowa State University, graduated in 2002. I'm a licensed architect in the state of Illinois. The plans that you're going to be looking at are prepared under a licensed architect for the state of New Jersey.
Thank you, Mr. Beal. I would offer Mr. Beal as an architect.
Sorry, you're licensed in?
I am licensed in the state of Illinois, but the plans that you're looking at were prepared under the state of New Jersey architect. So
you currently do not hold a New Jersey license?
I do not, but our
architecture.
Not myself.
Any members of the board have any objections to qualifying the witness as an expert in architecture? Bruce, is there actually a rule that states that the expert must be qualified in the state? I meant must be licensed in the state. I'm sorry, qualified now.
There's no bright line rule that requires an expert to be licensed in New Jersey. That's really one factor the board could take into account, along with experience and education and other factors to determine whether they want to accept his testimony as an expert under the circumstance that he's not licensed.
Have you testified in New Jersey before? Have you testified before any boards in New Jersey previously?
No, not previously.
Where have you been qualified as an expert?
In the state of Illinois, obviously, and then I have testified in Pennsylvania.
Before what kind of boards or in what kinds of matters?
In the matter of, for the Pennsylvania location, that was a zoning board.
And is that the only place that you can cite?
Of the most recent ones, correct.
Well, then there are others.
In Illinois, there was a board meeting that I was a part of, but I was not a witness at that meeting.
Chairwoman, if I could, I think due to the minor nature of the testimony that's going to be offered, I think, talking about the overhead door and the ramp, I don't think we're going to get into too technical of issues that would require someone with more experience in New Jersey, but I'll obviously defer to you and the board members on your pleasure.
I will agree with that. I guess for me, with the caveat that if we get into a technical nature, I'm not sure that we'll take it from there. I'll say we'll see what happens, but I would not have an objection then. Do any other members of the board have any objections to qualifying Mr. Beal as an expert in architecture?
Chairwoman Cohen, considering what Mr. Paparo is proffering, do we even need to get to the fact that the gentleman is an architect in Illinois? If the testimony is limited, as he has indicated, perhaps we could just hear the man out without qualifying him for anything.
Okay.
I mean, just the consideration. It's Mr. Paparo's case, not mine. And
yeah, again, I have no. Thank you, Chair. Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't have an objection. Again, I think Mr. Beal's testimony is very limited to the overhead door, and the transformer and the other technical aspects will be handled by Mr. Frood, who's our next witness. So really the purpose of Mr. Beal was really to walk the board through the existing floor plan, which is on file with the Township of Springfield, and it's really part of the original approval as well.
Okay, so let's hear him out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Beal, just briefly, again, because there are such limited changes to this building and the site, can you, what we have displayed are the elevations of the building. Can you just explain where the new overhead door, on what elevation that will appear and what it's replacing?
Sure. So the new elevation, or the new overhead door, is on the rear elevation, so the opposite of the Route 22 facade. The opening is a 12 by 12 overhead door, similar to the ones that are on the front of the building. This is replacing some existing openings, which are storefront windows currently. So we'll be taking out one and adding a new door, including the ramp. The ramp is there, obviously, to make up the difference from the interior and the exterior height. It's about a 1 foot, 11-inch height difference. And that ramp is around 18 feet long, which will be, less than the width or the length of the parking space itself. We will be taking out 2 of the parking spaces to accommodate that ramp.
And Mr. Beal, what's depicted on the screen in the center of the screen shows the new proposed overhead door and ramp, correct?
Yep, correct.
And the elevation that this is going to be constructed on is the opposite of Route 22. Is that your testimony?
That is correct.
Mr. Beal, modifications to the exterior of the building, what is Tesla's anticipation for making the elevations match? Will the same building materials be used for consistency?
Exactly, the same materials. This is currently on this building. So a stucco kind of look to the building that has been painted, and we will be matching that same look at the opening that is going to be new.
So from the appearance, in your opinion, the appearance from outside after this improvement's made, it will blend in with the existing facade. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
Okay. Mr. Fruit, if you could move to the floor plan just for Mr. Beal briefly too. Thank you. Mr. Beal, what's depicted is the interior layout of the dealership, correct?
Correct. So
and on this
go ahead.
floor plan, can you just identify which portion of the area will receive the new door and ramp?
Sure. It's on the left side of the plan. You can see the area of the new ramp and the opening right where that red arrow is indicated.
Within the building, did anything need to be shifted or modified or relocated to accommodate this new movement?
The only thing that's shifted is some of the existing lifts you can see that are dashed in those locations. Those would be the new locations. The existing locations would have been in the path of travel, and so they are being relocated to be outside of that path.
Great. No other changes to the facility?
Nothing on any other areas. The front of house is staying the same. All other areas are staying the same.
One last question that was actually raised by Mr. Disco. On the exterior of the building where mounted light, can you just explain what the intention is for that light?
So that light will remain. It is outside the area of the new opening. That light will be in the same location once the opening is complete.
So no need for new lighting outside, everything?
Correct.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Beal. Chairwoman, board members, I have nothing further for Mr. Beal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do any members of the board or professionals have any questions for Mr. Beal? Are there any members of the public that are present that have any questions for Mr. Beal? If so, please state your name and address in the Q&A.
Seeing none.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your testimony. And Mr. Paparo, please call your next witness.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Thank you, Mr. Beal. Our next and final witness is Robert Frood.
Good evening, board.
Okay, want to tell the truth?
Yes, I do.
Please state your full name, spell your last name, provide us with your business address.
Certainly. It's Robert Frood, F as in Frank, R-E-U-D. Professional address is with Dynamic Engineering, 1904 Main Street in Lake Como, New Jersey.
Mr. Frood, for the benefit of the board and the public, can you provide your education, area of expertise, and the licenses you hold, sir?
Certainly. I have a Bachelor of Science degree in Civil Engineering from Lehigh University. I've been practicing civil engineering and land development design for well over 20 years, primarily in the state of New Jersey, as well as several other states throughout the Northeast. Licensed professional engineer in New Jersey. I'm also a licensed professional planner by examination. I have testified before in the planning board in Springfield, including for the initial application in 2016 for the original approval of Tesla here. Testified in over 100 municipalities throughout the state and been accepted as an expert.
Great, thank you. Chairwoman, I would offer Mr. Frood as an expert in civil engineering and professional planning.
Thank you. Any board members have any objections to qualifying? You are qualified as an expert in engineering and planning. Please proceed.
Thank you.
Mr. Frood, I know you have some exhibits and plans up on the screen. Did you want to walk the board, begin walking the board through the site with your aerial?
Certainly. So this is an aerial map. It's titled Exhibit 1 as submitted to the board. It's dated 4. What you see here is an aerial image taken from Google. On the image, north is generally to the left, running east-west through the center of the page. You see a white outline of the property on Route 22. As you can see, this the HC zone along 22, all of these commercial retail businesses. There's also other auto dealerships along 22. I'm going to zoom road, which creates a corner lot here, and you see the existing building that again in 20 Tesla Service and Sales Center with the parking. The lot itself is specifically known as 135 Route 22 East, Block 3801, Lot 2. It's 2.56 acres in area. As Mr. Paparo indicated in his opening, and I just mentioned this was previously approved in 2016 for the Automobile Sales and Service Center with conditional use standards that had been adopted by the Planning Board and Councils a few years prior. Those conditional use standards have not changed, nor has the conditions of the site since that time or with this proposal. Therefore, we don't expect any changes with that relief that was granted. However, this board has retained jurisdiction over the minor site improvements and relief that's requested. However, we don't believe that the conditional use relief requires continued review at this point. Again, the site is predominantly developed. I'm going to flip now to Exhibit 3, which is the site plan rendering, primarily because describing the existing conditions is generally represented on this plan because there's limited change to the existing conditions. So this is probably the best view of that. This is the site plan rendering dated 7/12/2021. Same orientation, north generally to the left of the page. You have Route 22 side and Fadam Road at the bottom of the page running north-south. So we have the corner lot here. In the tan color is the existing one-story building, 34,607 square feet. It is the Tesla Sales and Service Center that was, again, approved in 20. Sales entrance facing Route 20 that comes into the building. It also has at the northwest corner the principal entrance for customers and for from Route 22 with that exists along the east side and a driveway that exists along the west side of the building, creating full circulation around the building, primarily north front to back on the east side of the building and two-way on the west side of the building. There's an egress-only driveway to Route 22, and there are two driveways along Fadam Road, both serving ingress and egress to the site. There is today existing stormwater management that was actually back when this was the, I believe it was a AAA service center that exists underground. There's no change to that. There's no change to the impervious. There is no change to the lighting as was described earlier on the building or off the building in area lights, and there's no change to the existing landscaping throughout the site. This is, again, very limited improvements. A little bit here now to really describe proposed conditions that we're talking about. Specifically, as was discussed by our architect, we have the overhead door at the rear of the building that will allow for egress from the building back into the drive aisle, and the proposed heavy-duty ramp that's shown coming off the rear of the building. That ramp will protrude no further than the line of the existing parking spaces, such that the existing 24 to 26 foot drive aisle at the rear of the building will not be altered, and we'll still have plenty of room for two-way movement. You can see yellow striping around the base of the ramp. Two parking spaces will be eliminated with the addition of this ramp. However, it's important to note that By the ordinance requirements, this site requires 68 parking spaces from a zoning perspective. There were 115 on the previous plan that was approved in 2016. Again, more than significantly more than is required by code. With this ramp, we're eliminating 2 parking spaces at the rear, bringing it down to 113 total spaces proposed in this area. Those are really the extent of the minor improvements. You can see the trash enclosure will extend that fence, as was indicated earlier in testimony, to enclose the second dumpster that's there in that area. I'm going to move back around towards the front of the building now. There was previous discussion in the application, when the application was submitted, I should say, to replace the transformer that exists at the front corner of the site. Where my cursor is now is the existing Tesla sign. Approval being refaced immediately behind that that's there today. What's slightly modified on this exhibit that we're looking at now is more information that we've received with regard to the transformer replacement, and it will be slightly larger than the existing transformer, and therefore we're also going to move it a little bit further away from the right of way and create room to install the new transformer while the existing one's there to make it easier to transfer service. Eliminates 1 parking space, front inventory parking. This 7 here used to be 8 parking spaces, so we're taking 1 space away from the corner to make room for the transformer, and more importantly, to make the transformer. And that's all from the utility company indicate to us how that transformer should be laid out. A 10 by 10 pad here with the bollard placements around the perimeter. As we eliminate 1 parking space, we also are slightly narrowing the pass-through drive aisle here to 20.9 points of relief that we're requesting as we redo this transformer. Down in Mr. Disco's letter is that while transformers are permitted, accessory structures are not permitted in the front yard in the non-residential zone. However, as I indicated, the existing transformer is right here. The utility pole is right at the street. So the logical and appropriate place for the new transformer to utilize the existing services next to the transformer location. But the second width of this drive aisle, 24 per the ordinance. From a design perspective, that's primarily important for cars backing out of parking spaces to have enough room to make a turning movement. As you can see, this is limited to the pass-through area. Cars can still back out of parking spaces with the nearly 30 feet along the front of the facility. 20 feet is enough for 2 cars to pass. You would have room for 2 10-foot plus lanes there for cars passing. A car might be plenty of room for cars to pass there without need for backing out of parking spaces. So we feel that relief from the design width of the driveway is still sufficient for turning movements and car movements throughout the site. Large vehicles such as emergency vehicles through in that area. Benefits certainly are the new transformer for the site. Really the extent of the proposed improvements on here. So I'm going to quickly shift gears, maybe put on another hat and talk a bit about the planning. As we talked about in the beginning, this is a conditional use that was approved in 2016. We have no modifications to the conditional use criteria or our compliance with those. So what we're really looking at, with regard to side yard setback to the east and front yard setback to Fadam Road, that are existing conditions that are not being modified. So as your planner pointed out, there is no change to those conditions or change with regard to the variance relief requested or that was approved in 2016. So is related to the accessory structure in the front yard and the driveway width. One would be I believe, in the front yard, in my opinion, could primarily be looked at with regard to the unique nature of the property in particular, which is that we have a corner lot with 2 front yards there. While a accessory structure is not permitted in the front in this case, and because primary power is obtained from that point of the intersection where the 2 front yards exist, that's where the transformer is today, would be located. So that is not only the limitations of the site or the unique nature of the site that helps justify the C1 variance, but also the appropriate location for this. So then look at in detriment, the positives and negatives of this. The benefits are we have increased power, newer technology with this transformer to service this building. We have the transformer is now located further from the intersection and is protected by bollards. From a negative standpoint, gated by relocating a little bit further from the right of way. We have eliminated a space to help improve and mitigate that setback by eliminating 1 parking space without any detriment to the overall parking inventory standpoint.
I didn't know, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I don't know if you've concluded your testimony and you wanted just to speak to the review letters. Any issues with any of the comments or recommendations?
No, we've reviewed the letters of the planner and of the engineer. I think a lot of it is with regard to operations that have been discussed. One item raised by Mr. Disco with regard to the sight line in comment number 5. We agree with Mr. Disco. We did overlay the sight line standards for the municipality. We also overlaid AASHTO design standards, something that we had looked at in 2016 transformer. That sight line triangle exists entirely within the right of way. Therefore, there is no impediment from anything on the property with regard to that sight line. Therefore, we agree with the design requirement.
Thank you, Mr.
I
Fruit.
believe we've addressed, I believe everything else within those letters has been touched on in testimony. Certainly, if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I just want to summarize, Joe, again, from a planning standpoint, it can be granted that there's no substantial detriment to the public resulting from the granting of this relief, and that the relief can be granted without substantially impairing the intent and purpose of the zone plan or the zoning ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Fruit. Before I let you go, Mr. Fruit, one thing I just wanted you to touch on as a planner. You've heard the testimony of Mr. Magley from Tesla regarding the functionality and the efficiency from this rear overhead door. Planner, when you deal with safety and site circulation, do you feel that the proposed improvements will be an enhancement to the site from a planning perspective?
Absolutely. Anytime you can improve site circulation, limit the movements around the site, it's going to be an improvement to the city. Now that we have the visual, rather than a car in the front and having to turn around inside the building, come back in the front, and then go to the rear to be, or come from the rear to be put into waiting to be returned to a customer, you now have a which from a planning perspective significantly reduces the amount of movements through the site, keeps that much cleaner and reduces any potential conflicts on site.
Thank you, Mr. Fruit. Chairwoman, board members, I have nothing further for Mr. Fruit at this time.
Thank you. Do you?
Just some quick ones. Identify what the height of the transformer is.
No, we are still working with our electrical designers and with the utility provider on the exact height. I personally don't know if we have that height nailed down yet. A lot of times, once we get the approval, we'll submit the loads and get that specified by the utility provider.
I only ask because we've seen a lot recently where there are 4 or 5. And so I would presume the applicant and you would have no objection since it's out of the site triangle and it is required by ordinance.
Yeah, we did speak about that, Mr. Disco, and we would be agreeable to putting some landscaping around that area.
Okay, thank you.
Freud. This exhibit that you're presenting is different than the site plan that was submitted to the board, correct?
It is with the lone changes, the transformer and the front area that I testified to, correct?
And so the total number of parking spaces that exist on the site today is 115. The application, the principal point stated that it would be a loss of 2 spaces, but you just testified that there'd be an additional lost space in the front here.
Right. So the final inventory after these improvements would be 112.
Okay. And I don't know if this is probably for you or for Mr. Magley. As far as, is the front parking area utilized mostly, who is it mostly utilized by? Customers, employees?
So all the from an operational standpoint, this is in the operations in 2016, the front parking is reserved for customers that are coming in and out. In fact, with regard to service vehicles would be brought up to the front as they come out of service to be returned delivered to the customers to come off site. So primarily there will not be customers in the rear parking area, driving employees, service vehicles, and any new car inventory that's being delivered to customers.
So do you believe that the loss of the parking space and the location of the any impact on site circulation to customers?
I don't believe so. I think that we have 14 plus the handicap spaces in the front is plenty of inventory for customers coming in and out.
Okay, thank you. And my other question, more of a housekeeping item, and I made in my review memo, but the site plan obviously needs to be updated for resolution compliance with the updated changes, which you just testified to, if this and also the zoning table currently shows 70% for the maximum lot coverage. As Mr. Disco pointed out in his review memo, for the HC zone, it is 63%. I know you're not requesting any changes to it. I just want to have it clarified and corrected in the table. Other than that, thank you for your testimony.
Thanks. We'll make those changes.
Can we mark this exhibit? This was not, was that right? The testimony? This was not part of the original application?
Correct. Yeah, submitted a number of days ago, added to the Google Drive folder or the Dropbox folder. So we can certainly mark that, Chairwoman. Good idea.
Thank you.
Why don't we go with
I don't want to interrupt, Joe. As it was submitted, it's noted as Exhibit 3 in the Dropbox folder.
Okay.
I don't know if there's something we want to do slightly different at the.
We would normally mark it A1, applicant 1.
Okay.
But I'm sorry, you testified that this is different. This is the same that was submitted a week previously, or this is different because of the change of the location of the transformer?
So the site plans that were submitted with the application don't show the loss of space and new transformer. This rendering was prepared and submitted, confirm the date, but was uploaded to the Google a week or so ago, Joe.
A1.
Correct.
We'll mark it A1.
Thank you.
Board members or any of our professionals for this witness?
Yes, I do. Can you explain the ramp structure, what it actually is? Duty ramp? It kind of implies that it's not a structure, but a fabricated ramp. Explain that a little bit further.
I think I'm going to, Brad Beal, if that might be better for the architect.
Okay.
Yeah, I can address that. So it is a fabricated ramp that would be bolted to the location where it would be, installed permanently. Manufacturer that we have been looking into is called Dockzilla. It's a ramp company that specializes in ramps for docks. This will be a custom designed ramp that we made specifically for this location, and the width and the length and the height that is required.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted that clarified. I just wasn't sure if it was something that was going to be constructed as like a masonry ramp or, something to that effect. And when I read that, it didn't seem like it was going to be a masonry structured ramp. So I appreciate the clarification.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for this witness? Do any members of the public have any questions for this witness? If so, please state your name and address in the Q&A.
I regret to inform the chair that there are no members of the public present.
Thank you, Apu. Okay. I guess if you would like to conclude.
Yes, thank you. And I'll be very brief. Again, you've had a busy agenda. I would just like to, again, thank the board's professionals and the board members for their time this evening. Tesla, since locating in Springfield in 2016, has been a great asset to the township and the business. Further investment and proposed improvements will help Tesla offer service to their customers more efficiently. As you heard this evening, the changes are very minor with the overhead door and ramp. The transformer is needed to provide additional charging stations for that technology. There is no other modifications to the operation to operate as it has since 2016. The relief sought, as Mr. Frew discussed, was very minor in nature. Being able to provide better service, electric charging stations, as Mr. Frew testified, those benefits would clearly outweigh any detriments. There are no property owners negatively impacted by the relief sought. And for the reasons suggested, we would respectfully request that you approve this application and allow Tesla to continue to be successful in the township of Springfield. Thank you again for your time and your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Paparo. At this time, I'm going to open up the application to any members of the.
Apu, if we could, while they're doing that, maybe take off the share screen.
Certainly.
Thank you.
There are no members of the public, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I'm in favor of granting the relief that was requested for the reasons that have been stated on the record. I do just want to make sure that there is a condition that the tires be moved, stored indoors, and that there is an increase in the frequency of the pickup or discardment.
I do have that condition.
Thank you. Did I miss any other conditions that were stated this evening?
I had two other conditions that I wrote down. The
If
refuse area. Oh, you can go, Bruce, if you'd like to.
Okay. What I have is the vehicles that have been parked, I guess, in the driveway will not be parked. Tire storage will be moved inside and picked. This area, both of the dumpsters will be enclosed with a solid screen fence, and I believe those are the three conditions.
One additional I had, yeah. Just a repetition, I believe, probably from the previous approval, but this that no outdoor service will be performed.
Very good.
I would just add the landscaping around the transformer too.
Got it.
So we would be approving the accessory in the front yard, the design waiver for the driveway with the nonconformities and with the conditions that were just stated. Is there a motion by our board?
I'll make a motion to approve,
Thank
you know,
you.
with the fact that they take the corrective actions necessary to address Mr. Disco's concerns in his report. I'll make a motion to approve the application.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Cunningham,
Yes.
Mr. Glass,
Yes.
Baum, and Chair Cohen.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Appreciate your hot time and your consideration this evening.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening, everyone.
Have a good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Romero.
Thank you.
Bye.
If
Good
there's
night.
no, do we have to motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Thank you. Everyone, the next board meeting is July 28th. We're looking at next week. Just remember, we have a separate
Yes.
meeting this month. So we will see you next week. If there's a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
Absolutely.
Have a good
All right.
evening, everyone.
Bye.
Good evening, everybody.
Thank you.